What is up? Welcome back to the GridironTalkZone podcast. It's been a while, but we're back here with some off-season content. We're going to be going through each AFC team, kind of giving a little rundown of the off-season, the improvement, and just kind of give our feelings about them heading into the new year. These aren't official predictions. We'll do record predictions closer to the season, but we're just kind of going over how we feel about each team, and we're going to give a division favorite for each AFC division favorite. So and we're going to do the NFC pretty soon here too, but this video is just going to be the AFC. So without further ado, we can get into it. Um, I'm going to take this graphic, go this caption down. There we go. Okay, starting with the AFC North. We're going to start with the Cincinnati Bengals. So as you see on the screen here, end of 2022 ranked. That's just why I had them power ranked. The improvement ranked. I do improvement criteria every year. It's looking back at my past years, it actually comes out pretty accurate. It's just I usually don't predict off it. It's like
Hmm.
maybe I should take it more into account because it's actually been pretty accurate. Then last season's strength of schedule, and then this season's strength of schedule, and then we're gonna look at some of the players lost, added, and then we're gonna give our feelings about them. So I guess I'll start. So the end of 2022 rank, I had the Bengals ranked third. They lost to the Chiefs in the AFC title game. Improvement. I don't think that they have made drastic improvements this offseason. They did lose both the key pieces in the secondary, Jesse Bates, Von Bell. But they added some guys like you see Orlando Brown and some others. Um, the reason why I have them improving is I think that the schedule lightened up this year a lot. You see, strength of schedule third hardest last year, 17th hardest this year, and I feel that Joe Burrow is going to have an MVP caliber year once again, and I think that they're going to maybe get over the hump and get to the Super Bowl. Don't know if I'm going to predict that yet, but I think that they're going to be able to rebound from those losses in the secondary. And the offense, I think, only improved with Orlando Brown coming in at tackle. So, yeah, what are your thoughts?
I agree that they improved, but I'm just a little bit worried about their secondary with the loss of two big pieces. But I do think that they did make improvements, especially with Orlando Brown.
Yeah, so do you think that they're going to be better than they were last year or about the same?
I think the same,
Okay,
probably
so
around the same outcome too.
yeah, we're a little bit different on that. But again, still not making official predictions, but
Hmm.
we can move on to the next team, the Steelers. So end of the year, I had them 13th. Um, they did miss the playoffs, but I had them slightly ranked over the Ravens. That has to do with the Ravens probably being injured going into the playoffs. They weren't kind of a good playoff team, but the Steelers were hot at the end of the year, so that's how they finished 13th for me. Improvement ranked 14th. They added a lot of different guys. You see, they kind of made some replacements. Patrick Peterson, veteran, came in, and they lost Cam Sutton. Similar talent-wise players. Hopefully Patrick Peterson can still play pretty good. Um, but yeah, you see the list of guys they added. A lot of different guys coming in and out. I think Pickett's second year, they're going to improve. The schedule lightened up too with a third place finish. Um, improvement rank, I had 14th. And yeah, I think that they're going to improve. Pickett's going to improve. The offense, they added some guys like Allen Robinson, another year George Pickens. The O line improved too, so I think they're gonna improve overall. Will they make the playoffs is the question, which I guess I'm gonna put you on the spot. Do you think they're gonna make the playoffs?
Um, I think if they were in the NFC, they'd have a chance, but the AFC is very stacked, so I don't think they'd make the playoffs, but they will improve.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of feeling too. Like it's hard to see them making the playoffs just because of how stacked the AFC is. I think that they're kind of going to be similar to last year. Another maybe 9-8 this season,
Hmm.
just missing out on the playoffs. But it depends how big of a jump if Pickett takes. I think Pickett's going to be better than last year, but I don't see him being a superstar quarterback, which I think they would need a superstar quarterback to kind of get to the playoffs and win with this roster. But that being said, I still think they're going to be about an 8-9 win team and give a push for the playoffs. So, do you have them improving just because they did improve? But will the record show it is the question. Moving on to the Ravens. Um, I mean, do you kind of want to do you want to start with the Ravens?
Yeah, I think the Ravens, their defense was so good last year, and with the additions in their receiving room and Lamar getting healthy again, I do see their stock improving and them just having a better year. And I think they'll be able to have a chance at the division this year.
Yeah, Lamar healthy. Hopefully, he can stay healthy the whole year. But as you see, have him 19th improved ranked, about average. I don't think they improved that much because of the losses. Like you see, Marcus Peters, Calais Campbell, Ben Powers, all pretty good players. I think their receiving core improved, and that's the main part that they needed improved.
Hmm.
Um, and with Lamar healthy, I think they improved by default. So yeah, I think that they can compete with the Bengals. Don't know who I'm going to be picking to win the division yet. Gonna have to. We're going to give our prediction in a few minutes
Hmm.
here, but it's not official because I'm in between those two teams. But yeah, so Ravens improved. Moving on, the Browns. The Browns, I think, those quietly one of the most improved teams in football. You look at end of year 24th. They didn't have a great year last year. Improvement rank I have at ninth. Mainly because they finally gave Miles Garrett help, added Zadarius Smith, Dalvin Tomlinson, um, and other guys like Elijah Moore, Juan Thornhill. They didn't lose too many big pieces. John Johnson kind of hoods, but Juan Thornhill is a similar talent-wise player. Obviously, Brissett wasn't going to be the starter this year anyway. A lot of this does depend on Deshaun Watson, though. The schedule, as you see, lightened up. They really improved. I think that this defense is going to hopefully get back to the form it was a few years ago. And um, it just all depends on Deshaun Watson if they make the playoffs. I think they're going to improve on the 7 and 10 year no matter what, unless Watson just absolutely plays like the worst quarterback in football.
Hmm.
Because they have the talent to at least win 7 games. So I think that they're going to be about in that range where they're fighting for the playoffs. And if Watson is playing good, they can get in. If not, they're going to miss.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it just depends on the play of Deshaun Watson. And the addition of Zadarius Smith, I think, will help Miles Garrett a lot. And I think he actually, we might do this later, but I think he'll win Defensive Player of the Year this year.
Yeah. So so now it's time for the division favorite. I think the Browns are going to be good. Deshaun Watson would have to get back to his 2020 form for
Hmm.
them to be able to win the division, and it's still questionable with Stefanski. Is he the right coach? But I think it's kind of a two-team race. I think the Steelers they have a really high floor, but I don't see them having like a 12-13 win ceiling. So I think it's between the Ravens and the Bengals, and I'm gonna ride with Joey B and the Bengals to win the division.
Yep, I'm also going to ride with the Bengals. Yep.
Okay, moving on to the AFC South, the Jags. So the Jags, they had a pretty good season last year, won a playoff game, had them ranked seventh at the end of the year, improvement ranked 21st. The thing with the Jags is the season or the offseason before last season, the 2022 offseason last year, they added much players. They paid a lot of guys that people thought were overpays, but it actually worked out because they won a playoff game. Now the problem is they didn't have much cap and draft capital to go make major moves this offseason to get into that next level of contending status. So they kind of just stay the same in my mind. The schedule's roughly similar strength wise. The big X factor is Calvin Ridley. They added Calvin Ridley. Um, well, they traded for him mid last year, but he was suspended, so now he's going to be on the roster this year playing. Um, how good is he going to be? If he can be a number one receiver, that's going to boost them a lot and maybe help Trevor Lawrence even take another jump. Um, but yeah, my main concern is the offensive line because you see they lost Jawan Taylor, the other tackle from last year, Cam Robinson, is suspended for I believe like 6 or so games. So they have the rookie from Oklahoma, Anton Harrison, going to have to step up. They have Walker Little, pick out of Stanford a few years ago. So the O line is going to be concerning, especially early in the year without Cam Robinson. So that's a concern. But yeah, I think they're going to stay about the same. It again with the development of Lawrence, another year with Peterson, and getting Ridley and the young defense, they could take a jump and be a conference championship type team. But I think that I kind of see them being a divisional round team again, once again.
Yes, I agree. And something to look forward to, and for me, is like some of their defensive pieces developing. Because in their secondary, they have a lot of young players, and their defense as a whole. And if they can continue to develop, I think that they can have a top defense.
Yeah, the defense is very interesting. But yeah, player development stuff, I think they're going to win more than 9 games. It's just I don't know if they're going to quite get past the next
Yeah.
round of the playoffs like they couldn't last year.
Hmm.
But anyway, on to the next team. The rest of the division's kind of tough. The Titans, covering some of the guys, but they lost a lot of pieces. This is a weird team. So end of year, I had them 21st. They were actually pretty good midway through last year. Then Tannehill was injured, so they kind of fell off. But schedule's pretty easy once again. They're playing a weak division. They just made a ton of roster moves. You see, a lot of the veterans that have been on the team for years now are no longer on the team. And they added some key pieces, a lot of young guys, but they also brought in some veterans, like you see with Gill, Gill, and Shahil, and Murphy Bunting even. So they brought in a lot of veteran replacements. This team, I think that the stock is down, but I could see a scenario where they bounce back and make a run for the wild card. It's just hard to see that with kind of Tannehill being on the door out at quarterback. The one team that they do remind me of, kind of a few off seasons ago, it was after the 2019, before the 2020 season, before the COVID season, the Rams cut Todd Gurley, cut Clay Matthews. They lost a lot of pieces, but they brought in some different guys, and it ended up working out. It's just I don't see that with the Titans. But yeah, what do you?
Yeah, it comes down to the skill players on offense. I just don't think outside of Derrick Henry they have enough to elevate that offense. And just I think the few additions they did make on defense, I don't think they will matter in terms of improving.
Yeah, it's just a tough AFC. That's one thing I forgot to mention. So it's hard to see them making the playoffs. But moving on, Indianapolis Colts, team that shouldn't be very good this year. They were bad last year. They slightly, I guess, improved, but compared to the rest of the league, I had them at 20th for improvement rank. The coaching change, I don't know how to feel about that. Steichen, he could be good. He's kind of a wait and see guy for me. I wasn't really high or low on him. Richardson going to take time to develop, but can give him a high floor rushing the ball from the quarterback position this year. And Minshew, who knows? Minshew could maybe play from day one, but I just don't see a ceiling with Minshew. They did lose Stephon Gilmore, Bobby Okereke, Paris Campbell. But yeah, it's a team that I think is going to kind of stay at the bottom of this division, and they're going to take a few years to rebuild. But they still do have pretty solid defense and some pieces on offense like Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor. So maybe they could surprise people and win a few more games than we expect, but I still think they're going to be pretty bad.
Yeah, I just kind of think this is like a transition / rebuild year. It'll take them like a couple more years to improve record-wise.
Moving on to the team that I think is the most improved team in football, the Houston Texans. I couldn't even fit all the potential starters that they added. But look, D'Amico Ryans, I think he's going to be a big upgrade from Lovie Smith. Like what I saw from San Francisco. I like Saleh a lot too when he was in San Francisco. And Saleh, some people like him in New York, some people don't. I'm one of the guys who likes him. So I feel similar things about D'Amico Ryans. But CJ Stroud, he was my number 3 quarterback in the draft, but I do think he's more ready to play right now than Richardson. I just like Richardson as a prospect more. But Will Anderson, good from the edge, can potentially have a 9-10 sack rookie season. Hopefully, they gave Stroud some playmakers with Dalton Schultz, Robert Woods. They drafted Tank Dell, and they have John Mechie coming back from cancer. The O line, they kept Laramie Tunsil. I had guys like Shaq Mason. They drafted a center out of Penn State. And they had a lot of pieces on defense. So I think they kind of the past few years they've been filling this roster with just like practice squad players and maybe a few potential starters. I feel like they actually brought in some good starters this offseason. and they didn't lose too much outside of Brandon Cooks. That's why I think they're the most improved team in football, and I expect them to at least win 6-7 games this year.
Yeah, I kind of see them as like the Jaguars of recently because I think we might not see the improvement in the record this year, but if you give it a couple more years, they will be a playoff team, I think, and will be contending in the AFC.
Yeah, it all depends on CJ Stroud development. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think they're going to be pretty solid this year. But that's that division. I think we both feel the Jags are going to win the division. I think it's Jags first, Colts fourth, Titans, Texans are going to battle for second and third. I think that it depends if I think the Texans that they can kind of progress throughout the year and probably steal second place in that division. It just depends on how quick they progress as a team.
Yep, I agree.
On to the AFC. So this division is going to be tough, but a lot of good teams in this division. Starting with the Bills, who won it last year. I had them fifth at the end of the year. They lost to the Bengals in the divisional round. Improvement rank 15th. I think they quietly had a sneaky good offseason. Although what's not in here is they did lose their defensive coordinator, Leslie Frazier, so that could potentially hurt. But looking at guys that they brought in a lot of depth on defense. Taylor Rapp to be behind the two stud safeties, Puna Ford on the D line, Leonard Floyd on the edge recently, a few days ago. Damian Harris hopefully can help the backfield. Dalton Kincaid, I don't know how good tight ends usually rookie tight ends will be, but he was a pretty good prospect out of Utah, so we'll see if he can take some of the time from Knox. But yeah, they did lose some guys like Edmonds, Singletary, McKenzie. Edmonds, the main big loss there. I kind of feel the same about them. Some people are feeling low on them. I don't know if they're getting quite the Super Bowl hype they were last year. I think they're just kind of this playoff team that it wouldn't shock me if they made the Super Bowl this year, but I think they're kind of a playoff team who's kind of a little bit behind the Chiefs and the Bengals.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're pretty much the same as they were for the last like several years. And they will be able to make a playoff run. It just depends if they can get over that hump.
On to the next team, the Miami Dolphins. I like the Dolphins a lot this year. One of the 12 most improved teams, in my opinion, mainly on the defensive side of the ball. You bring in Jalen Ramsey to pair with Xavier Howard. You have Javon Holland, that backfield, a lot of guys who can rush the passer too in the front seven. I think Isaiah Wynn is an upgrade over Brandon Shell at tackle. Then you look at some other additions, David Long, Robbie Anderson to compete for the third receiver spot, Deshaun Elliott. The loss that I'm concerned about is Jasicki just because of the threat he was as a pass catcher in that offense. But Mike McDaniel wants more of a blocking tight end, so I guess the fit wasn't there, even though he still produced pretty solid last year. But yeah, I think that this team is going to have one of the best defenses in football now, bringing in Vic Fangio as defensive coordinator. It really all depends on the health of Tua, but I'm going to predict as if he's healthy and playing most of the season. And
Yes.
I think this team's going to compete with the Bills and the Jets to win this division.
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of skill positions, they're top three or in the top 3 to 5 range in all of football with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. And like you said, it all just depends on the health of Tua.
Yeah, we'll see how McDaniel coaches in his second year. I don't think he's going to be one of those coaches like a Matt Nagy or Kevin Stefanski who maybe got figured out after a very good first year, but because I think from the Shannon entry, I think he's gonna still be a good coach, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
On to the next team, the New England Patriots. Since this is your team, I'll let you start. And just what are your thoughts?
It's kind of interesting with the Patriots because I do think their roster did improve, especially defensively and with the addition of Mike Gesicki. But the rest of the teams in the AFC improved, I would say, more than the Patriots did. So I agree with the stock thing that shows there with it not changing a lot because I think their record will be similar and just the rest of the teams in the division improving a lot will lead them to drop in the standings.
Yeah, with the Patriots, I feel they finished 8-9 last year. I feel like they kind of just replaced some guys like Juju for Miles, Reef for Win, James Robinson for Damian Harris. I do think that just Sicky though, that's another big addition. I didn't even put that Johnny Smith as a key loss because he really didn't contribute much. So, but I
Yeah.
think Gesicki is gonna be a big upgrade there to pair along with Hunter Henry. I think McCourty is gonna maybe hurt from a locker room
Yeah.
perspective. And his play is still pretty good
Mhm.
too, but they still have a pretty good safety room, Kyle Duggar. Um, but anyway, the reason why I have them the same and not down is because of the offense coordinator situation. I think Bill O'Brien. I think the quarterback and coordinator OC situation is much better than it was last year. I think we're going to see more of what we saw Mac Jones in his rookie year, building off that instead of last year where he kind of had a down year and it seemed like him and Patricia didn't have the best connection on the field. Um, so I think that they stay about the same. It's just again what you said. Other teams in the AFC have improved a little bit more than them, so it's going to be hard to see them making that jump to the playoffs. Um, I see them in a similar situation to the Steelers, though, where they're going to be good, but like it's going to be hard to make the playoffs because I feel like these two teams have kind of those ceilings.
Yeah.
Unless Pickett or Jones takes that big step, they're kind of going to be in that 8 to 9 win range, probably.
Mhm.
On to the New York Jets. The Jets have them 10th improvement rank wise. Yeah, they honestly might improve a little bit more than that too because of the addition of Aaron Rodgers. But Alan Lazard, McCole Hardman, two additions at receiver. I think Lazard's a big addition, has that connection with Rodgers. They had some other guys too. Hopefully, Mekhi Becton is healthy this year. Um, but yeah, the schedule a little bit harder than last year. And the question is, can can they be the big dog in this division? Because the Bills and the Dolphins are kind of, I feel like, the big two right now, and I feel like the Jets are going to make that a big three this year. Sorry with the Patriots, but I don't feel
Yeah.
like they're going
I
to compete with
agree.
the other three teams. It's just can they finish on top out of those three teams? That's going to be tough. But they brought Nathaniel Hackett to be OC. He has that connection with Rodgers, so I think they're kind of in a with this Rodgers situation in a 1 to 2 year window where they kind of have to win a championship. If they don't, it's kind of a disappointment, but at least you tried to go after it. If you don't win a championship, and so I think the stock is up. They're going to be one of the 7 best teams in the conference probably, and be competing for a championship when playoff time comes. It is just, I think they're the team that they should make the playoffs roster wise, but again, if Rodgers doesn't kind of like elevate as much as we expect, the team, then they're gonna probably miss out because it's a stacked conference. But they should be a playoff team.
Yeah. I think most people thought last year they were a quarterback away from being like a top contender.
Yeah,
And this year they went out and got Aaron Rodgers. So I think they will improve. They should make the playoffs. It's just whether they can be up there with the Chiefs, Bengals, Bills.
yeah, because that defense is young and is only improving, and Garrett Wilson should, by trajectory, probably be a top tennis receiver this year.
Hmm.
So yeah, moving on to, oh no, we need to give our division favorite. Um, okay, so I think it's 2 to 3 team race, like I said. I'm really feeling the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins. It's again, it's not Tua dependent, but I think Tua can only build off last year. It's tough with the injuries to pick them to win the division. With their quarterback already muling retirement this past offseason. But I think that the roster is very good. The defense is going to be very good, and I think that Mike McDaniel is going to get the most out of this offense. And with a healthy Tua, he's still a pretty good, accurate quarterback who can win this division. But I think it's really between those three teams.
Yeah, I'm also picking the Dolphins. I just think that their skill positions and the additions to their defense can elevate them to be past the Bills this year.
Yeah, the Bills. It's tough to not pick them to win the division, but I think I think the Dolphins made the improvements to win this division. But
Hmm.
again, no final predictions yet. But on to the AFC West, the Chiefs. Of course, coming off a big Super Bowl win, 14-3 season, Mahomes MVP season. Um, they didn't improve the most this offseason, but didn't really need to be honest. Jawan Taylor replaced Orlando Brown. They drafted an edge rusher out of Kansas State, and they added a Menahu from, I believe, the Niners to replace Frank Clark. They didn't really have a Juju McCool Harden replacement, but they have young guys like Sky Moore. Hopefully, Kadarius Toney can build off what he did with the Chiefs last year. Yeah, so I feel that the Chiefs they just replaced guys with similar talent wise, and still have Mahomes and Reed. I think those stocks stayed about the same, but they won the Super Bowl. So 14 wins. How much more can you improve? I think that they're about the same and will compete for the Super Bowl again this year.
Yeah, as long as they have Mahomes and Reed, they will be a favorite.
Yeah, it's weird because last year I think I had them the sixth seed or something. They were like
Yeah, I
expected.
think I had them third in the division or something.
Yeah, same. I had them second or third in the division. Now that I think about it, no, I had them third. I had them behind the Chargers and Broncos. Then they went out and won the Super Bowl. But yeah, so in what was supposed to be the down year, they won the Super Bowl. So I don't see a way that if they regress it's by maybe a game or two, and maybe they lose the championship game. But as far as the stock, they're still a contender. So moving on to the Chargers. Chargers for about 2-3 years now. It's been can they take that jump into contention? They haven't yet. Last year, you could have said it was because of injuries. Um, Improvement rank, I have them eighth because I'm factoring in the guys who played 5 or less games last year. Like J.C. Jackson played a few games. Slater played like 2 games. Bosa played like 3 to 5 games, I think. So those guys all barely playing, hopefully healthy this year. You added Eric Kendricks to the linebacker room, drafted Quentin Johnston. I feel like you finally get, as long as he pans out, you have number 3 receiver to pair with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, which was my concern for them the past years. Lost a few players, but you replaced Tranquil with Kendricks. You have young guys to replace Matt Filer. Nasir Adderley retired, and then DeAndre Carter left in free agency. So I feel like the stock is going to be up just because they have guys healthy. My only concern with this team is has Staley lost the locker room? I don't think he has because his players seem to love him, but they haven't had the results. It's been talk. There was a lot of talk about Staley being fired after last year, but the Chargers stay committed to him. A lot of the season, in my opinion, depends on Staley. Now they bring in Kellen Moore as OC to replace Joe Lombardi. So, um, again, coaching is going to be how is the coaching between Kellen Moore and Staley? Because you have the quarterback, you have the roster. They should be contenders. I think it's all in the coaching.
Yep, coaching and health, the big things for the Chargers this year.
Yeah, because how good Mahomes is. Herbert's not as good as Mahomes, but he's still pretty good. He's probably top 5 quarterback in football. And looking at the roster, overall, the Chargers roster is probably a little bit better than the Chiefs. It's just the Chiefs have the best quarterback in football and probably the best coach in football, and the Chargers have probably average to below average coaching. So the coaching is the big part. I don't just see the coaching drastically improving. So again, I think that they're going to kind of be the little second dog to the Chiefs in this division. Question is, can they stay over the Broncos? But anyway, on to the Raiders. This team that went 6-11 last year when they were supposed to be taking the build off the 10-7 playoff year the prior year, but they disappointed for many reasons. I'm not a big Josh McDaniels guy, so that's gonna hold them back from, I guess, taking another step in my opinion. But lost Carr, added Jimmy Garoppolo, lost some other guys too. They didn't add too many big names out of maybe Jacoby Myers. Tyree Wilson was a draft pick out of Texas Tech, but he's probably going to be the third edge rusher and more of a he'll probably be a future Chandler Jones replacement in a year or so. But yeah, I don't think that the Raiders are going to improve this year. I could see them winning about 6-7 games, but I feel like stock wise improvement. I had them ranked 26th. I feel like the drop off at quarterback is going to probably bring them down a little bit. Probably be a 5, or maybe can replicate 6-win team. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're probably one of the worst improvement ranks. I agree with the 26, and I don't see them coming close to the playoffs, even though they have some star pieces, but they're just like spread around their roster. They just don't have depth
Yeah,
or like the quarterback.
the O line is gonna because Jimmy Garoppolo was good last year, but that was with Kyle Shanahan. Now he's going with Josh McDaniels and behind one of
Yeah.
the worst O lines in football. So he's gonna be under pressure constantly. Well, I don't see him being able to make a lot of plays out of that. I do like the receivers though. The pass rush is gonna be pretty good. It's just I don't think they're gonna be able to cover many teams at all.
Hmm.
So I think that they're gonna regress a little bit. On to the Denver Broncos. The Broncos, I have them fifth improvement ranks simply because of the Sean Payton move. I think that's going to make that big of a difference. Um, you're looking at the rest of the additions. They added some guys on the O line: Ben Powers, Michael Blinchy, Garrett Bowles, who's a pretty good tackle. Only played a few games last year, so having him back for hopefully the full season. I don't know if you remember, but Tim Patrick, I think, tore his ACL in like preseason or training camp last year.
Hmm.
So now they'll have him back. Um, and they still kept Judy and Sutton too, so they have the receivers. Schedule is pretty similar. They didn't lose too many pieces, so I think that they're going to improve, mainly because it's hard to be worse than they were last year, and I think that the Sean Payton hire is really huge, and they're going to take a big jump, in my opinion, to potentially being a playoff team. And yeah, what do you think?
Just like looking at their roster earlier, I was just really confused how they had that bad of a year last year. And
Yeah,
if Russell Wilson can bounce back with Sean Payton, I think they can become a playoff team this year.
yeah. So I think Russell Wilson's going to bounce back with Sean Payton. Javonte Williams is coming off injury. The receiving core is good. It's just can Judy Sutton be that star number one? I don't think so. That's what may hold them back. O line's pretty good too now. I'm a little concerned about the pass rush. Your best edge rushers are Randy Gregory, Nick Bonito, Balin Browning. Randy Gregory, he hasn't been healthy this past year, so hopefully he can be healthy. I think the secondary is really good. O line's good. I'm just a little concerned about the pass rush and that they don't have a star number one receiver. That's why they could probably miss out on the playoffs in a stacked AFC. But with Sean Payton, if you can get Russell Wilson playing top 10 quarterback football again, they'll compete for the playoffs. But yeah, so we agree that the Chiefs are going to win the AFC West.
Yes, and probably be the 1 seed.
Okay, so we have all agreements on the 4 division winners. We have the Chiefs, the Bengals, the
The
Jags,
Jags
and
and
the
the
Dolphins.
Dolphins. Yep.
NFC is going to be our next one. I think we're going to be different on some of those. I think I might have all new division winners in the NFC. But yeah, we'll probably have one or two of those different. But anyway, that's going to be this podcast. We're going to do the NFC one pretty soon here too. And then we're going to start preparing for our all-time quarterback draft. That's probably the pod I'm going to be most excited for.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, I'm big into football history. John knows quite a bit too, so we're both gonna do some research on the all-time quarterbacks. We'll probably have Graham on here too, and then we're gonna do an all-time draft. So that'll be fun. But any closing thoughts?
Nope. I'm excited for that quarterback pod.
Yeah, then we're gonna have to come up with some other stuff before we get into like predictions and stuff.
Yeah, predictions, like
We'll,
records and stuff.
we're gonna have to come up with some ideas for
Hmm.
like early or late June, early July. I'm gonna also be doing my top 40 quarterbacks that I do every offseason. I'll probably do that in my own video, and then we can do maybe a quarterback draft on here. Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, that's the pod. Thank you guys for watching, and peace.